Günther Rall was born on March 10, 1918, in the small Bavarian town of Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Growing up in the years after the First World War, he experienced a childhood shaped by economic hardship and national uncertainty. His family valued discipline, education, and responsibility, and these influences played an important role in the character he developed. As a boy, he enjoyed outdoor activities, sports, and especially flying. Germany's strict restrictions on military aircraft at the time meant that many young men dreamed of flight long before they had any chance of doing it. For Rall, that dream would become real when he joined the military as a young man. In 1936, he entered the German army as an officer cadet. After some time with the infantry, he transferred to the newly created Luftwaffe, drawn by the promise of flight and adventure. He trained as a pilot during a period when Germany was rapidly expanding its air force. By the time he completed training, Europe was on the brink of war. Rall proved to be a talented pilot from the beginning. His instructors noted his calmness under pressure, quick reactions, and sharp situational awareness. These strengths would become essential once he entered combat. When Germany invaded France and the Low Countries in May 1940, Rall was assigned to Jagdgeschwader 52, a fighter wing that would later become famous for producing some of the highest-scoring fighter pilots in history. During the Battle of France, Rall flew his first combat missions. He quickly discovered that real aerial combat was very different from the highly controlled environment of training. The sky was chaotic, crowded, and dangerous, and there was little time to think. He gained his first victories during these early missions, but he also witnessed the loss of comrades and the harsh reality of war. After France fell, Rall participated in operations during the Battle of Britain. Although he flew fewer missions in this campaign, the experience challenged him in new ways, since the Royal Air Force proved to be a determined and skilled opponent. In 1941, Rall's unit was transferred to the Eastern Front for the invasion of the Soviet Union. It was here, over the vast territories of Russia, that he achieved most of the aerial victories that would make him one of the most successful fighter pilots in history. The conditions on the Eastern Front were brutal. Pilots often flew multiple missions per day, facing harsh weather and long distances. The Soviet Air Force initially lacked the experience and tactics of its German opponent, but it grew more formidable as the war continued. Rall's flying skills, however, allowed him to excel. His ability to spot enemy aircraft, maneuver his fighter with precision, and remain calm in dangerous situations set him apart. He often described combat as a series of rapid decisions, each one building on instinct and training. Rall's victory count began to rise at an extraordinary pace. He became a squadron leader and later a group commander, responsible not only for his own performance but also for the lives and effectiveness of the pilots under his command. Despite the intensity of the fighting, he tried to lead with a steady and thoughtful approach. His fellow pilots viewed him as determined but fair, someone who pushed himself as hard as he pushed them. The strain of combat, though, was constant, and the pressure to achieve results never stopped. In November 1941, Rall suffered a major setback when his aircraft was hit during a dogfight. He crash-landed and was badly injured, with his back broken in 3 places. For a time, it was unclear whether he would survive, let alone fly again. Doctors doubted he would ever return to combat, but Rall was determined to recover. Through months of pain, rehabilitation, and slow progress, he fought his way back to flying condition. His return to combat in 1942 was both a personal triumph and a sign of the resilience that defined much of his life. Once back in the air, he resumed flying missions with the same intensity as before. His continued success earned him several high decorations, but along with these achievements came deeper challenges. The war on the Eastern Front was becoming more difficult, and the Luftwaffe was slowly losing the ability to replace pilots and aircraft at the rate they were being lost. Rall often found himself flying alongside inexperienced pilots who depended heavily on the guidance of older veterans. The physical and mental fatigue of constant operations took a toll on everyone. By 1944, Rall had achieved 275 confirmed aerial victories, making him the 3rd highest-scoring fighter ace in history. Yet he, like many Luftwaffe pilots, could see that Germany was losing the war. Supplies were limited, fuel was scarce, and Soviet forces were pushing westward with growing strength. Rall continued to fly missions, but the sense of inevitable defeat was never far from his thoughts. In late 1944, he was transferred to Western Europe to oppose American bomber forces. The air battles in the West were very different from those on the Eastern Front. Instead of small, scattered engagements, pilots faced massive formations of heavily armed bombers escorted by large numbers of modern American fighters. In one of these battles, Rall was shot down by American pilots and severely injured, this time losing a thumb. Despite this, he survived the war and was taken prisoner by American forces. After the war ended in 1945, Germany found itself devastated. Rall spent time in prisoner-of-war camps before eventually being released. Returning to civilian life was extremely difficult. The country was occupied, its future uncertain, and former military personnel were often viewed with suspicion. Rall worked various jobs to support himself. He also married his longtime companion Hertha, who had stood by him throughout the war and his injuries. The two began building a new life together during a time of national reconstruction. When West Germany was permitted to form a new air force in the 1950s, Rall decided to rejoin military service. The new Bundesluftwaffe was part of NATO and closely linked to Western defense strategies. Rall's experience made him valuable, but he had to learn new aircraft, new technology, and new political realities. The era of jet aircraft had arrived, and he trained extensively to adapt to these innovations. He flew the F-84 Thunderstreak and later the F-104 Starfighter, an aircraft that became controversial due to its high accident rate in German service. Rall played a key role in training programs and the modernization of the new Air Force. He gradually rose through the ranks, eventually becoming a general. His leadership in the Bundesluftwaffe helped shape the post-war German Air Force into a respected and professional institution. Later, he served as a military representative to NATO, where his experience and diplomatic skills contributed to strengthening cooperation between member nations during the tense years of the Cold War. This phase of his career allowed him to move beyond the legacy of wartime Germany and participate in building a more stable Europe. In the years after retiring from military service, Rall became known for his willingness to speak openly about his wartime experiences and the lessons he had learned. He emphasized the importance of honesty, responsibility, and respect for human life. Although he had been one of the most famous fighter aces of the Second World War, he never glorified war itself. Instead, he focused on the human stories, the challenges faced by young pilots on all sides, and the importance of reconciliation. He participated in veterans' events, historical discussions, and interviews, always presenting himself with dignity and humility. Rall lived a long life, passing away on October 4, 2009. His life story spans some of the most transformative events of the 20th century. He grew up in the aftermath of one world war, came of age during another, and played an important role in rebuilding his country during the Cold War. His experiences as both a wartime ace and a peacetime general give a unique perspective on conflict, leadership, and personal resilience. Even though he became famous for his wartime achievements, he seemed to believe that his real legacy was not the number of victories he achieved, but the lessons he carried forward into a new era. Throughout his life, Günther Rall demonstrated determination, courage, and a willingness to confront difficult truths. His story reflects the complexity of individuals who lived through extraordinary times. He experienced the heights of success and the depths of injury and defeat, yet he continued to serve with commitment and integrity in the decades that followed. His path from young pilot to senior officer mirrors Germany's journey through war, destruction, recovery, and reintegration into the international community.